Dear respected members of the media, today I'm standing in front of you with a very heavy heart. I'm here in front of you because I believe the tyrant government of Bangladesh is basically setting the stage to judicially murder my father, Mutiur Rahman Nizami. These are not just the words of a broken-hearted son. Most legal experts agree with that. International human rights organizations who have said that my father and the others targeted by the so-called International Crimes Tribunal are victims of brazen plot by the Prime Minister of Bangladesh and her party to remain in power. My father and his colleagues are not war criminals. They are political pawns targeted to obliterate political opposition before next year's scheduled election. My father has a long, illustrious career that stretches back half a century. Never before were allegations made, never before were charges brought against him. And members of legitimate political parties became an electoral threat to government of Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. It was only then the charges started to flying in. Charges based on contrived testimony from witnesses who were threatened, witnesses who were bribed, charges related to activities 40 years prior, charges with no credible physical evidence. Since the founding of independence, my father, Mutiur Rahman Nizami, has maintained a very open and transparent life. He held public offices for the immediate past BNP-led government in Bangladesh. He is considered as one of the most successful agriculture and industries minister of the country. In a country where public offices often buried under corruption and nepotism, my father was one rare political figure who was immune to all of this and above reproach. His achievements were admired even by his opponents. Under his stewardship, the nationalized sugar mills saw profit for the first time and the only time. I'm very closely attached to my father. Whenever I was away from home, I always used to call my father, even if it were for a few minutes. I have been deprived of that privilege for the last 3 years since his detention. My father is now being tried before a renegade tribunal for crimes he never committed, for actions of which he has no knowledge. Whenever I talk to somebody about my father, the first question that I get asked is that 1971 was 42 years ago, right? How have these allegations remained dormant for 42 years? If he were guilty, wouldn't someone have said something about it before? Honestly, I don't have any answer to that. I don't know if anybody has any answer to that. I don't know if anyone has a legitimate answer to that question. The only answer is that the charges are without basis in fact. My deep condolence goes to the victims and their family members who perished in 1971. This political witch hunt that is going on in Bangladesh in the name of their blood does not honor them at all. It is instead a sacrilege. The victims of 1971 would, I'm sure, be troubled by how their memory is being politicized by this tribunal. In short, the tribunal has successfully managed to divide and rock the nation. Today, I'm here to highlight some of the flaws, deep flaws, that took place during the trial of my father in the International Crimes Tribunal. In any non-despotic jurisdiction, the conduct of the tribunal would surely have resulted in misconduct, charges for judges, prosecution, and investigative officers. The government ignored all the international standard and created their own rule that they hid behind to justify their plan to murder the leader of a political party. Firstly, the arrest of my father and the subsequent trial process were arbitrarily, illegal, and flawed from the beginning to the end. On the November 23, 2011, the United Nations Working Group on Arbitrary Detention expressed its opinion that the detention of my father under the Bangladesh International Crimes Tribunal Act was arbitrary and illegal. The UN Working Group cited, quote, significant restriction, unquote, on defendants' access to legal assistance and their unimpeded access to evidence. The tribunal, that's the first flaw, the tribunal amended its own rule and procedure and gave that retrospective effect in order to construct a sham pretense to legitimize my father's detention order. Secondly, the biggest scandal, you all know of it in the history of Bangladesh judiciary, namely the Skype scandal revealed in Economist magazine, the Wall Street Journal, and other respected international publications, showed that the charges, the verdict, and the death sentence were written before a single word of testimony was presented in the court. All of this was at the direction of the highest officials of the government. The puppet masters running this trial invented a charge to be framed against my father despite the fact that the investigation officer did not bring the allegation at all in his investigative report. In order to substantiate the charge, the investigative officer illegally reopened his investigation after it was officially completed and the trial commenced. Further evidence and witness lists were submitted by prosecution even before the case was closed. Third one, the right of the accused to defend his case was substantially curtailed by the tribunal. The prosecution was given 22 long months for investigation. However, the defense was given only 3 weeks for their preparation. The prosecution was directed by the government-paid attorneys in Brussels and England. An internationally respected attorney was barred from appearing in the court in defense of my father. He was even barred from even entering the country. Furthermore, the prosecution was allowed to submit the list of 104 witnesses. Initially, they submitted a list of 65, then they further submitted a list of 6, and again, they submitted a list of 28. Finally, they again submitted a list of 5 additional, so that all adds up as 104. The tribunal did not limit the number of prosecution witnesses at all. However, for the defense, the number was only 4. The prosecution took 14 months to adduce prosecution witness. However, the defense has been given only 13 days for adducing their witness. On 13th November 2013, the tribunal closed the case without giving defense the chance to close their argument. Later, upon an application of the defense, the tribunal allowed the defense to submit their argument within 2.5 days, but allowed the prosecution again to rebut a complete day. The prosecution tendered a new document in the rebuttal. The defense was not allowed to respond to that at all. Let me make it clear what happened or what my father did in 1971 during the independence period. My father was a prominent student leader in 1971. He was the president of All Pakistan Islami Chhatra Sangh, Jamiyat-e-Talaba at that time. His daily activities were recounted in the print media and in the police reports, wherever he went in 1971. It was reported in the newspaper, and you could also find it from the police report because he was a known political figure at that time. The prosecution's allegation that my father physically participated in the atrocities that occurred in our home district, Pabna, is implausible because if you go through the newspaper reports and the police report, you'll not find a single time that he was in the district of Pabna. But all the atrocities committed during that time in Pabna, my father was held responsible for that in the court. Witness intimidation and interference is the constant recurring theme of this tribunal. As many as 5 listed witnesses claimed on camera that they were forced, offered bribe, and in some cases tortured to give false testimony against my father. One of the witnesses in particular, namely Advocate Shamsul Haq Nannu, in a secretly filmed video stated that government officials, including the Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina and the State Minister and the DGFI, the Secret Service, forced him to testify against my father. He also claimed that he will receive 14 crore taka, which is equivalent to 140 million taka, and if you convert that in US currency, that's $2 million. So this amount was promised to be given to Shamsul Haq Nannu as a loan if he testifies. The video was allegedly filmed on 31st May and 10th July 2012 before his disposition in the tribunal on the 20th June 2013. John is going to shed some more light on it during his statement. However, the video was published on 18 September 2013. Mr. Nannu, in a press conference held in the prosecution office on the 21st September 2013, denied that he was the person that was secretly videotaped. The defense filed an application before the tribunal asking to recall Mr. Nannu to allow cross-examination regarding his videotaped statement. And like everything else, the defense were not given that opportunity. The defense annexed with that application the photocopy of Nannu's passport, his picture in the voter ID, and his picture in his advocacy directory. The tribunal rejected the application with the observation that, quote, it is apparently found from the application that prosecution witness number 11 allegedly has made contradictory statement before different media, and as such, those subsequent statements are not fit for taking cognizance of it. Accordingly, the prayer of recalling prosecution witness number 11, Shamsul Haq Nannu, is rejected. So just like that, recalling of this witness was rejected. Subsequently, the video of Mr. Nannu's press conference in the prosecution office and the alleged secret video were sent to an independent expert who has no affiliation with anybody. Independent. They don't know anything about what is going on in the tribunal for voice analysis. That revealed that the person in the press conference and the person in the video is the same person. The analysis shows that Mr. Nannu was telling the truth when he stated that his testimony was false. When he was threatened and bribed, the analysis further shows that his denials were not believable. And again, John is going to shed some more light on that. I would like to finish with a personal message. I know my father is a very brave man. If yet, he has little chance of overturning a corrupt and compromised legal process by himself. If the international community does not intervene, he will be killed. The civilized world cannot let a government act with such a tyranny and make a mockery of justice like this. Our demands are very simple. This show trial must be stopped immediately, and the international community needs to speak up publicly against this trial. An internationally supervised tribunal is the only way to bring justice to the victim of 1971 war. There must also be a moratorium on all death sentences. Additional unrighteous bloodshed is a decisive to murderers in 1971. All past, current, and future trials at ICT must be reviewed by an internationally supervised and sanctioned inquiry. The days of silent diplomacy is over. I would urge the international community to hold the Hasina government accountable for this challenge to democracy in Bangladesh. If there is no action, it risks destabilizing the country for decades to come and plunging the region into another political crisis. Thank you again for coming. God bless. On behalf of my family, Dr. Muhammad Naqibur Rahman, proud son of Mutiur Rahman Nizami, Amir, Bangladesh Jamaat Islami. Now I would ask Captain Retired John Slater to give a statement. Thank you very much.
Good morning. I was asked to appear at this press conference to go over some of the findings of the work that I conducted regarding the videos with Mr. Nanu. In August of this year, I was contacted by an independent party and asked to take a look at the videos, conduct a voice analysis and a voice stress analysis examination on all the videos. The videos that were submitted to me with okay. Can you hear me now? Okay. All right. In reviewing all of the videos, we use various types of software and different processes to conduct the analysis. The primary software that was utilized on this was the Forensic Voice Stress Analyzer. It's basically one of the only systems that has ever been developed and validated by science. In the extensive study of the video recordings, it was determined, again through various different measures of audio analysis, that Mr. Nanu is actually the same person in all the videos, the one with including the undercover video. The process that I went through to come to that determination was a very lengthy, time-consuming process. We do not just measure your pitch and tone of a voice. We measured all of the inaudible frequencies, the amplitude modulation, frequency modulation, undulations and microtremors of the human voice. And in doing that study, I was able to determine with a 99.9% degree of accuracy that Mr. Nanu is the same individual in each video recording. Is this any better? Okay, I'm sorry.
It looks like very low voice.
I'm sorry. I'm from the South. All right. In regards to determining truth and deception with the audio recordings and video recordings, within the I conducted a study on 6 different audio videotapes from press conferences and found that Mr. Nanu was being untruthful when he claimed that another person made the statements claiming that his testimony was coerced. The conclusion with that is between the certainty levels of 90 and 98%. He in fact is the one making the allegations in the video. The analysis of the Bangladesh war crimes trial exposed video, that's the only title that I'm aware of that it's been called. You'll have to bear with me on some of the pronunciation of the names that I'm about to use. But Mr. Nanu was being truthful when he said that Sheikh Hasina instructed him to testify for a promised reward. Mr. Nanu was also being truthful when he said that he was offered 140 million taka loan from the ADB in exchange for his testimony. Mr. Nanu was being truthful when he said charges against Mr. Nizami, I'm sorry, were fabricated by the government investigators. Mr. Nanu was also being truthful when he said investigators fabricated statements to justify arrests of Ishaq Malana and Subhan Malana. And again, please forgive me for pronunciation of these names. Mr. Nanu also gave conflicting statements regarding the specifics of who threatened him and exactly what they wanted him to say. I have to say, and I think that this is very important, that I was not familiar with what was going on in Bangladesh. I had no knowledge of it until I was contacted to conduct this audio analysis. And normally when our company has a project such as this to conduct an analysis, it's pretty much our protocol that we do not research. We do not find out any information about the conflict or the allegations or anything like that, so we can remain unbiased in the situation. So, as you can tell, I'm having problems struggling with the correct pronunciation of the words and the issues that are involved in this trial. I was astonished after going through the video and audios and finding the deceptive areas and the truthful areas like I did. Sounds like there's some very serious issues going on in Bangladesh with this war crimes tribunal.